We are live again Thursday mornings in the Circle Leadership Headquarters studio. Today, we are going to be discussing customer experience. And if your customer service sucks, it's because your leadership sucks. What the hell does leadership have to do with customer service or customer experience? Well, we're going to go through all that today. If you looked at the live stream earlier, we did a little post about the fact, remember the soup Nazi, the famous soup Nazi scene from Seinfeld? For those of you who are my age, remember Seinfeld? The soup Nazi had a very, very strict customer experience policy. If you try to do anything different, you're just blessed to be able to get the soup from them, and that's it. And if you try to ask for anything different or do anything or make any suggestions or recommendations, there'll be no soup for you. And this is, in a world that we live in today, just not acceptable. The world is shifting. Everything's moving fast. Client experiences and demands are increasing. We already know everybody wanted free yesterday and a few other things. But we really need to be understanding this whole client experience thing and how do we drive an amazing client experience and possibly what's beyond client experience. But how the heck does this have anything to do with leadership? Well, in this live stream, we're going to go through that. I'm going to look at the main thing from a customer experience point of view, and this is no different for us in our organization, is please understand that it's an inside-out proposition. Whatever's going on inside your organization will find a way to manifest itself on the outside. So when you think about client experience, if you want to have an amazing client experience on the outside, what's your client experience like on the inside? And I want to challenge that from two perspectives. One, how does the client journey happen through your organization? So obviously we think that how do we handle the client's, requests and process through the organization, but also what would it be like if you actually had a client watching how you do things? So we're going to talk about that in a moment. I've been having this conversation with a lot of clients lately. So I want to jump straight to the whiteboard. I want to get in here and want to share a few things with you guys. I'm going to take you through what we call a client experience model. Okay, so this is the client cycle. So if you see at the top here, we start with this. This is right here. We'll go here. This is the client. Okay, so this is the customer right here. Now, I need that for later. What does the client care about? The client has a need or a want. So it goes to you, and you might have a salesperson, for example, who's going to see that client, and they go, hey, here's what I need and what I want to do. Elisa's jumped on. There we go. Hi. So the salesperson meets with the client or the business development person, whatever it is, and they find out what they want, right? And then the process, I guess you want to call it, whatever your process is for fulfilling that client's need begins. So I'm just going to make up some arbitrary roles in here as we go through this. So the salesperson then goes into the organization and talks to the admin people and says, hey, here's the stuff that we need to have happen. No different in our organization. When I've met with a potential client, I go to Jordan. Hey, Jordan, here's what we've done. Here's what we're working on. Here's the things that we need to be doing. And then in many organizations, that admin person then will take that information that they've received, and then they'll hand over the work to, let's say in this case, production. And then production will get it, and they'll do what they need to do. And then, of course, finance will get involved for invoicing and, schedules and things like that might need to happen, or any purchases. And then once finance is done their bit, it'll go to fulfillment. And then once fulfillment's done with it, it'll go back to the salesperson, and the salesperson can go back to the client and go, hey, here's the thing that you're looking for, right? Now, in this process, what does the client care about? The client cares about, did I get what I wanted? And what I would challenge is maybe and a little bit extra, right? We'll talk about having extraordinary service, and extraordinary service is just that little bit extra. So, but definitely the client said, did I get what I wanted? Yes or no? Now, here's what happens in many organizations, and I may exaggerate this a little bit, but I've done this before and exaggerated it, and people just laughed and said, that's exactly what's actually happening. So the salesperson comes in and goes, we'll reiterate this process here. So the salesperson comes in and then gives this stuff to the admin. And then what does the salesperson do? Going out there and trying to find another person to sell to. Now, the admin person gets dumped with all this stuff, and they're going, ugh, that Dave guy, all he does is come here, dumps his crap on us, jumps in his Porsche and drives off. By the way, I don't have a Porsche. But just for example, jumps in his Porsche, drives off, and gets his big commission and goes and gets another client. Well, I have to do all the work. And then because this person's unhappy with that, then they go pass this on to production, or they may hold on to something for a period of time because I don't like Dave. And you know what? Oh, better get around to that stuff and pass it on to production. Production get it going. Oh my God, admin people, this. Why didn't they give me this 3 days ago? They're frustrated because now I've got to take all this stuff. I got to try and catch up now. Why didn't you give me all this information, or where's the information I need? And then production fall behind, and then finance go, oh my God, well, we were supposed to invoice this like a week ago, and we haven't even done that yet. So we're doing work we haven't even been paid for yet. God, those production guys are hopeless. And then the finance people finally get everything done and go to fulfillment. Fulfillment are going like, oh my God, now I got to pull this stuff together, get it ready for the salesperson. The salesperson is just going to come and abuse the crap out of me because I haven't got everything done in time, and we're a week behind for the client. And the salesperson goes, Jesus, what's going on in our organization? This is terrible. Oh my God. And then sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Client, we apologize for this. You know what it's like. My team, our production guys let us down. Admin, comment here from Julian. It's really great. Triggered by this is my time in sales management. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Jules. And then, so the sales are then they're starting to blame, production, what it's like, and the admin people, they screwed this up. And because the salesperson does not want to look bad during this process, because in the end, they want to look good to the customer. So this is what happens in organizations. We get this blame cycle going on inside the organization. Now, when you're talking to a client, if I ever went to a client and said, hey, hey, sorry, what Jordan's like, she let us down, or, Lisa didn't do whatever, what? That makes us look bad. And also, the client does not give a crap about what our problems are. We're supposed to be there solving their problems, not telling them what our problems are in solving their problems. So that's the first thing I want to get very clear. Is one of my early clarisms was, do you claim or do you blame? Are you claiming responsibility on behalf of the organization, or are you blaming somebody internally? Or are you blaming one of your suppliers? I don't know if anyone saw my Daily Dive I did just the other day. We referred one of our suppliers who's done phenomenal work for us to one of our clients. Now, unfortunately, the client didn't have a great experience with that person up front. There was missed appointments, confusion around pricing, and various other things. So they spoke to me about it, and why I followed up with them, say, hey, how's it going? And they said, oh, well, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you called. Here was this. And then I said, well, don't worry, I'll take care of that. And they go, no, and I said, no, we referred the supplier to you. It's our responsibility. Let me talk to the supplier. And we also value the relationship with the supplier as well. So then I reached out to speak to the supplier and spoke to them about the situation and how it all had panned out. And they were obviously very apologetic for it, didn't want to make us look bad in the process. And I said, no, that's fine. But it's not what happens to you, it's how you choose to deal with it. So I would recommend that you think about how you best want to handle the situation. I can't tell you what to do. It's your business. But then the person, obviously being apologetic, offered additional work to our clients, done a phenomenal job for them. And now the client is willing to refer that person on to other people. But please understand, we took ownership of that because we had made the referral. I could say, oh, well, hey, not my fault that what she did, but we took ownership of it because it was part of our process. It was part of our ecosystem that we had offered to the client as this additional supplier relationship we have to give them access to it. Now, I could have, a typical supplier or whatever, these people, what they're like, but I didn't. I chose to take ownership of it. I chose to claim responsibility for that situation. So in organizations, when we think about this, a couple of things. One, do you claim or do you blame? All right. So you're claiming responsibility for what's happening inside or outside the organization. Salespeople out there, please understand, you are the representative of the organization. Now, let's take a look at this model and so that, when there's a mistake that's happened inside the organization, you are responsible for that. Now, whether you actually caused it or not is irrelevant, but the client does not give a crap about what is happening below the surface here, right? If we just go back here, all this stuff that's going on down here, none of the client's concerned. All the client should be and is concerned about is this stuff. Did I get what I asked for? Okay, so here's a positive way to look at this. Imagine if we're putting this through here and the salesperson goes to the admin people And the admin person looked at the salesperson as the client. I am the client representative. So I go to Jordan, and Jordan looks at me as the client representative and say, how may I serve you today, Dave? Like, what's the best way I can help you? And sometimes it might be that I'm impeding Jordan's ability to do her job. So we need to find a way to be able to work together. It's more of like a partnership. There's a concept out there where people like, the internal customer service. But that can also breed in your teams like, hey, I'm the customer. You have to do that for me. And we don't want that mindset or mentality in our organization. What we want to do is make sure we're working in partnership so that we know that the client is at the front of everything that we do. My good friend Chris Moyer has just brought out an amazing book. I can't wait to finish to read it. I know what it's all about, which is an all-in culture, and it's about how you go all in on client experience in your organization. And I'm sure Chris will be loving this at the moment. But so when we look through the sales to the admin people who say, hey, how best can we serve this client? And then the admin looks at the sales people like, how can I best serve you? And how can you make it so that I can be of the best service to you? And then we build this great relationship. And then same thing, production. And we go, okay, well, what's the relationship between admin and production? What would you need from us? How do you like things to be delivered to you? What time things? What would you like? So that we can make sure that our clients are getting the best experience through here. And then the same thing from production to finance. And if we started taking this mindset, when it comes back around to here and around to back to the salesperson, get back to the client, we've had the client at the center of everything we do all the way around that process. Okay, rather than looking at it's Jordan and Dave, it's actually Dave is the representative of the client who's now handing that baton on to Jordan, who's now the representative of the client, who then passes it to production, which could be Lisa, who's the representative of the clients. So we carry the client through our process all the way inside our organization and back out. And this is really important to understand that. So A, do you claim or you blame? B, do you actually carry the client through your whole process of your organization? What is the client experience like at every stage of your process? The other thing that I want to just share with you here, and this is what I've been doing a lot with a bunch of clients recently. I'll just bring a different color here for this. Is can you imagine if in your meetings you had a client watching what was going on behind the scenes? Can you imagine if the client stood in your meetings and stood there when you're having production meetings or you're having problem-solving meetings, if you're having anything going on in your organization and the client was standing in there? You have one of our clients we were talking to last night that they do very large deals. So imagine a client who's worth $1 million deal that they're looking at you guys doing the work for them. And there's this $1 million deal standing there in the corner. There's this client, and they're watching how you're handling problems and communicating inside your organization. And they're going, is this the team that I want to take care of my stuff for me? The way you handle problems. If the client was sitting inside your organization during your meetings, is that how you would run your meetings? Is that way you would talk to each other? Is that the way that you would support each other? So this is really important to understand that do our clients, if our clients were watching, is this how we would behave inside there? Are we carrying the client experience all the way through the internal operations of our organization? Right? Because client service or customer experience is an inside-out proposition. And this is so critical for us to understand when we're looking at client experience. Let me bring my thing here. Okay. So a couple of last points. So at every stage of the journey, of the client journey, as you work through your organization, the handover in that model that I just shared with you, don't lose sight of who the customer is in that. It's not Bill and Mary or whoever it is that there. It's the client representative. We're representing the client all the way through here. So make sure that you're keeping that at the forefront of everything that you do. And then secondly, imagine the client sitting there watching everything that you do. Then how would you behave, or how would you handle situations and problems that come up? We all understand that problems can come up. If our clients were sitting in my office when I was handling the call with our supplier, they were like, oh, wow, this is amazing, because they could see that I was acting on behalf of both people to make sure we had the best interests at heart of the client and still maintain the relationships that were there. This was critical. Please also remember the customer doesn't care what your problems are. You're there to solve their problems, right? So you need to make sure that we're driving that. A couple other things here is just from a leadership point of view, your role as a leader in this then is to make sure that everybody understands not only their role, but their role in relation to the client, to the purpose, to what we're doing. When everyone has a personal connection to the public sense of purpose and understands why we do what we do, the problem we're here to passionately solve for people, and how they're connected to it, and why their role matters, then they can start to have a better understanding of how they fit into that client journey around that cycle. Okay, because client experience is an inside-outside proposition. Last thing I want to share with you, actually might jump back on the whiteboard for this, and why this is so critical. I've got the little love heart up in the corner there. I want to show you this. All right, so the reason why this is so important, please understand that culture is how we think and feel. Remember, many of you may have seen me do this before, but culture is how we think and feel. So it's how we think and feel about our organization. And when we love why we do what we do with the people we get to do it, so why we do what we do, and we get the people we get to do it with and for, and the people we get to do it for, and we speak that with love to the market. Well, brand then is how the market and consumer thinks and feels about it. Because you imagine when you're being served by somebody who just loves why they do what they do, where they do it with, the people they do it with, what is your experience like as a consumer or as a client? It's amazing, right? So when everyone can speak with love from the inside out, from a culture point of view, why we love doing what we do, for the people we do it for, with the people we do it with, brand then is how the market and consumer thinks and feels. And they can't help but respond in kind and go, wow, this is amazing, right? Because it's an inside out proposition, right? The two halves of the heart come together and everybody falls in love with why we do what we do for them. So if you have problems with your client experience or your customer service, you're not getting the results you'd like there, you can survey the clients as much as you like, but I would go inside first and look at what is your process? How are we demonstrating care for that client through our whole process of our organization and back to the client again? Because the client cares about, did I get what I wanted? And we take what they wanted. What is that like every step of the way through our organization and back out again? And assess where the client is being forgotten maybe in the process. Because sometimes it becomes about us. We spend more time organizing the business than focusing on the actual business of the organization. And the business of the organization is to solve problems for our clients. So leadership, take a look inside your organization, find out what the client journey is like, where things are falling down, where we've lost sight of the client through the process. And that will be a good indication as to what's starting to cause problems in the client experience on the outside. Okay, guys, thanks so much for tuning in for that. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you'd like a copy of the client cycle, just put hashtag, well, what we put there, just put hashtag clients, and we'll make sure you get a copy of that. We actually have a proper copy of the client cycle that we can share with you, and you can take a look at that in different stages of your organization. So hashtag clients at the bottom, we'll make sure you get a copy of the client cycle, and start challenging yourself to look through your organization, because if your customer service sucks, it's because your leadership sucks, because you're not paying attention to the client experience inside the organization. Okay, till next week.